Horizon just want to see you reaction, and this is what if only 100 people existed on Earth with the channel RealLifeLore. This is the kind of topic that RealLifeLore excels at, I guess. He's gonna use lots of maths and stats and research the shit out of this, so it's gonna be fun. I wrote quite a few RealLifeLore videos already. If you haven't seen them, check out the cast. There's a playlist I wrote for it, RealLifeLore reactions, something like that. Check out the playlist too, like CGP Grey, Internet Historian, all the sarcastic products on Internet Historian, things like that. Tearzu, yeah. And let's watch this one.
This episode of RealLifeLore is made possible by Hover. Get your unique domain and email by going to hover.com/RealLifeLore and using the code RealLifeLore for 10% off at checkout. Earth is a complicated place. There are a lot of us that share this planet together, and it's sometimes difficult to understand who everybody is and what everybody believes. To understand things a little better, let's shrink the entire world population down from 7.5 billion people all the way down to just 100 people, and keep our small 100-person society as similar to the real world as possible. Dividing between gender, the 100-person world would be equally divided between 50 men and 50 women.
That's how Hitler would have done it.
Most of these people would live in Asia, a total of 59 people compared to 16 people living in Africa, 10 living in Europe, 8 in North America, only 6 in South America, and just one lonely person living
Okay. So basically, he's taking entire world's population and, shrinking that down to 100 people. And then, basically distributing around the world just the way the population is right now today. So just one person in Australia. Well, it's still funny to see, man. Only one person in Australia. He's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here, mate?
in Australia and Oceania. 19 of these people would be Chinese citizens, and another 18 would be Indians. There would be only 4 Americans, 3 Brazilians, 2 Russians, and 1 German. The other 53 people would be citizens of 187 other countries around the world.
You think Australian got it bad? All these 53 people has to be, cut in pieces just to fit in this 187 other countries.
Most of these people would be pretty young, with 9 people aged just between 0 and 4 years old. 17 people would be aged between 5 and 14 years old, and 16 people would be aged between 15 and 24 years old. Another 16 people would be aged between 25 and 34, which means that 58 total people are younger than 35 years old. 20 people would be between 35 and 49, just 14 people would be aged 50 to 64, and only 8 people would be above the age of 65. When we talk about religion in the group of 100, 31 people would adhere to Christianity, 23 would be Muslims, 15 would be Hindus, 7 would be Buddhists, 9 would follow other religions, and 15 people would be non-religious or atheists. Mandarin Chinese is the...
Atheist is at the same number as Hindu. So basically that's a big number. That is something, isn't it? Just 20 years ago, atheist number was really small, now it's rapidly rising. The more people preach science around the world, the more people are seeing, I guess, reasoning in things.
The most understood language with 14 people understanding it, but English isn't far behind it with 13 people understanding it. 9 people understand Hindustani, 8 people understand...
You mean Hindi? 9 people understand Hindi. Hindustani is just native word for the country's name. Hindustan. Just like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Hindustan. That's what the native word for that. Hindustan and Bharat. Those two are the native word for India. It's Hindi.
Spanish, and 5 people understand Arabic, with the other 51 people speaking over 7,000 other languages. Mostly everybody can read and write, with 86 people possessing this ability, but there are still 14 people who are illiterate. 92 people have access to clean and safe drinking water, but 8 people do not and struggle as a result. 62 people are healthy.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought this number would be higher, so at least that's good. At least, out of 192 people have, good clean water. That's good.
But 8 people do not and struggle as a result. 62 people are healthy in their weight, but 11 people are malnourished and 1 person is literally starving. The other 26 people...
So I guess Australian is living in Australia alone and he's also starving. I know anybody who's writing the comment, he's not talking about Australian. I know he's not talking about Australian. Whenever he's gonna say one person, I'm just gonna imagine that Australian.
People are overweight, and 8 of those people are actually obese. 21 people do not have adequate housing to fully protect themselves from the elements, and 1 person is homeless. The other 78 people, however,
Australian is a homeless. How is he supposed to build home all by himself?
do have proper housing for themselves. Only 60 people have access to toilets, though, and the other 40 people do not. Of those 40 people, 15 of them still defecate out in the open outdoors. 54 people live in cities, while the other 46 people live out in the countryside. 9 people are currently unemployed, while the other 91 people either are employed or are outside of the labor force. 1 of these people has AIDS, and 5 people will be infected by some form of STD this year alone. 58 people are currently married, and the average age that people get married at is 29 for women and 32 for men. Another 15 people actively smoke tobacco products, while the other 85 people do not. Interestingly,
Ooh, look at that. That's a good number. This number would have been completely different 20 or 30 years ago. So this is good number. Yeah, I think in Australia and all the other places, if I'm not mistaken, if you buy a cigarette pack or something, there's going to be, diseased lung photo on the pack just to tell you what this is going to do. I mean, people could argue like this is weird in democracy. This obviously, who's going to buy a cigarette watching that? I mean, basically, if you show them, if somebody's go to eat, I guess steak or something, and if you saw, cow getting murdered in the, if you saw a video of cow getting murdered in loop in the steakhouse or something, and so when somebody goes to eat steak, they're not going to eat steak regardless of what. Doesn't matter how much you're into steak. Pretty soon it's gonna get older. Like screw that. I don't want that. So you could think that I understand tobacco cause lung cancer, but there are better way, like informing people and let people make choices rather than forcing people to see that diseased lung, and in that way basically forcing them not to smoke. If you want to do that, just ban it. I mean, why play around the concept like that? If you are basically forcing people not to smoke it in a way, just ban it. At least you're being honest there.
people actively smoke tobacco products, while the other 85 people do not. Interestingly enough, the same statistic is true of vehicle ownership, with 15 people owning a motor vehicle and another 85 people
How
not
many of
owning
them own
one.
Corollas?
Most people are overwhelmingly right-handed, with only 10 people being left-handed. 73 people have or are expected to graduate from high school, while the other 27 people haven't or are not expected to graduate. However, only 7 people hold a college degree of any kind, while the other 93 people do not. But that doesn't stop most people from owning a cell phone. 80 people are in possession of one, while the other 20 people do not have one. This means that yes, more people have access to a cell phone in the world than a toilet. Internet access—
Wait a minute, so that means there are people who don't have toilet but have smartphones. Priorities, people, come on. Really? You saw a smartphone and you bought it rather than, basically doing, I guess, building a toilet or something, I don't know.
This is also much more uncommon than cell phone ownership, with only 42 people having access to it and the other 58 people not having any access to it. Speaking of the people with internet access, however, 26 of them have a Facebook profile, 17 of them have a YouTube account, and 4 of them use Twitter at least once per month.
Well, that's it. Twitter is that less used than Facebook? Damn. Okay, and obviously YouTube used a lot. When I'm thinking about the toilet thing I just said, then I realized, wait a minute, there are certain places, I think I've heard of it, there are certain places who doesn't have any sewer system, so even if somebody wanted to build a toilet, they can't, so maybe that's the reason.
But perhaps the most shocking difference in our small group of 100 people is the distribution of wealth between them. 71 people have a net worth of under $10,000, and out of them, 12 people are living on less than $2 per day. 21 people have a net worth between $10,000 and $100,000, and 7 people have a net worth between $100,000 and $1 million. There is only one person who actually has a net worth above $1 million, but this one person is vastly more wealthy than even this chart makes it.
So there's only one person who lives in Australia. Basically, he's starving, he's homeless, but at least he's rich, he's a billionaire apparently.
Appear. This one person owns 50% of all the money in the world. The next 9 people own 35% of all the money in the world, so to recap, 10 people together control 85% of all the money in the society. Another 20 people owns 12% of the global money supply, which means that 70 people,
I mean, look man, I understand that, basically genius should be rewarded with riches. Obviously that's called incentive. Why would somebody do anything? Why would somebody invent anything if they're not going to get rich? But I think there should be a limit. If 100 out of 10 people controls 85% of all the riches, that's a massive issue. I mean, understand socialism is not good. Venezuela and lots of examples people given. If you implement full on socialism, that's just effed up. Nothing's gonna happen. Your economy will crash. But I think people need to find a balance between socialism and capitalism to to make sure things like this doesn't exist, because there's finite amount of resources whenever you consider anything. Finite amount of steel, finite amount of everything, any resources. And that's where the money comes from. So somebody's saying like, why would rich person give their money to somebody? That's the world's resources that they are hogging on. They're taking all the world's resources by themselves, where there are 7 billion people on the planet. I mean, there should be some form of middle ground between socialism and capitalism. Whenever somebody says healthcare, people scream socialism. Really, there should be some basic rights as a in 21st century when you have all this technology. If you can't even give any human basic right as just healthcare, I mean, are we as a society any better than what we were 500 or 1,000 years ago? I mean, if a guy basically dies with the smallest infection because he cannot afford to go to hospital or call 911, how is that good? But at the same time, there's an asshole just in front of him with 10 supercars. I mean, there should be a middle ground. That's what I'm thinking.
The vast majority of the society only controls a mere 3% of the money supply. In addition, one person is a refugee or currently displaced from their home, and 2 people are named Muhammad.
I mean, yeah, isn't that, yeah. He is in a sense a refugee. He's everything. He's just one guy in Australia.
Which is the most common name in the world currently. Finally, all 100 people currently live on Earth, our home.
Muhammad is the most common name? I didn't see that coming.
Within a few years, however, who knows how all of this data may be different. So this video was made possible by Hover.
Yeah, people, go to hover.com/RealLifeLore and support this channel. I love this. I love this video. I don't know why, because of my stupidity or what. But I love that. Whenever he talks about one person, I always think of that one guy in Australia. This was awesome. Alright, people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cast wall playlist. Check out the end cards, and I guess I'll see you next time.